Hello, today is Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025. And today I'll be reading from Richard Rohr's Daily Meditations and talking about this week. The articles on Rohr's website have been talking about contemplation, and the devotion or the meditation for today um, is entitled Black Traditions of Contemplation. Um, and it starts out with some writing from E. Trey Clark, who is a professor of preaching and spiritual formation, and he considers the rich history of Black contemplative preaching in the um, Center for Action and Contemplation's latest issue of Oneing, a Living Tradition. And Clark writes, in Christian faith traditions, contemplative preaching is a mode of proclamation that weds prayer, wisdom, and reflection to invite listeners into a transformative encounter with God for the good of the world and the glory of God. Black contemplative preaching is shaped by the holistic spirituality, communal orientation, and vibrant orality that is part of the rich Africana heritage, even when embodied outside of predominantly black contexts. Moreover, Black contemplative preaching unites the head and the heart, the personal and the communal, the spiritual formation and social transformation as it bears witness to the liberating and life giving gospel of Jesus Christ. While recognizing that contemplation is ultimately a gift, Black contemplative preachers seek to guide people to experience loving communion with the divine while also pursuing the flourishing of Black people and all of God's creation. It is essential to note that Black contemplative preaching is not a recent development. Its deep roots can be traced to the lineage of biblical prophets such as Moses, Isaiah, Mary, and Jesus himself. Moreover, it stems from a tradition of African mystics, including St. Anthony, Moses the Black, and St. Mary of Egypt. It is also part of a larger history of mystic preachers in the Christian tradition that includes Augustine of Hippo, Hildegard of Bingen, St. Francis of Assisi, Meister Eckhart, Donna Beatrice Kimpa Vita, and others. And then the Rohr writers write, building on this tradition of Black contemplative preaching, Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman, 1899 to 1981, offers a vision of life as a shared harvest. He reminds us that our lives are part of a communal process of sowing, ripening, and reaping together. Thurman writes, this is the season of gathering in, the season of the harvest in nature. Many things were started in the spring and early summer have grown to fruition and are now ready for reaping. Great and significant as is the harvest in nature, the most pertinent kind of ingathering for the human spirit is what I call the harvest of the heart. Long ago, Jesus said that people should not lay up for themselves treasure on earth where moths corrupt and thieves break in and steal, but that people should lay up for themselves treasures in heaven. He's quoting from Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 20. This insight suggests that life consists of planting and harvesting, of sowing and reaping. We are always in the midst of the harvest and always in the midst of the planting. Living is a shared process. Even as I am conscious of things growing in me planted by others, which things are always ripening, so others are conscious of things growing in them planted by me, which are always ripening. Inasmuch as I do not live or die unto myself, it is of the essence of wisdom for me conscientiously to live and die in the profound awareness of other people. The statement, know thyself, has been taken mystically from the statement, thou hast seen thy brother, thou hast seen thy God. Well, lots of things went through my mind as I was reading this, and I don't think reading this kind of thing you have to believe in God or the presence of a divine spirit, divine being, specifically to have it have meaning. And I really think that the things I was taking from this is contemplation, as with all the readings this week from the Rohr community. Um, the contemplative practice is one in which we stop and contemplate our lives and our connection to others and to the greater creation, which, if you will, can be a place where we find the presence of a divine being or God or creator, um, recognizing that we are all in this together, and where we experience communion with the divine is in communion with one another. And this writing also reminded me how much of U.S. Christianity has become so individualistic, where it's always seems to be focusing only on the self and adherence to particular laws or rules, and self righteousness, with the intent of preserving one's soul to get into what some consider heaven after you die. And I think that's, again, you've probably heard this if you've listened to any of my other videos. This is completely off target, because it is really about how we live in union with one another, how we support one another, how we impact one another, including our creation. I mean, it is, to me, Christianity in the United States has taken, just as Thurman mentioned, taken texts and focus it only on the self while ignoring the other, the community, the relationship, because that's really where we find divine being, the creator, God, is in relationship with others and in relationship with creation. And too many U.S. Christians have taken biblical texts and said, know thyself, and simply focused on themselves, knowing themselves, and forgetting that it's really about, you've seen your brother, your sister, your community, and you've seen God. It's not just about yourself. It's about your life in the world, your impact on others, and their impact on you, and how we live together in community. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Maybe yours will be different. I don't know. But I think this is another way that you can take writings from different traditions, even if you're not a believer in a creator or whatever, and or God, and just see what it means to you in living together in community, reading between the lines. So hope it's given you something to think about, and hope to talk to you again soon.